Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Ueda, in October of 2021, the special purpose acquisition company Digital World Acquisition Corporation announced plans to merge with former President Trump's newly formed media company, Trump Media and Technology Group. The SEC then brought its first ever enforcement action against a special purpose acquisition company using a novel legal theory, coincidentally a month later, after Senator Warren urged the SEC to investigate the merger. It's also worth noting that in addition to Chairman Gensler's role as CFO of the then Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, the former head of enforcement at the SEC was married to Peter Strzok, the current director of enforcement, repeatedly targeted the Trump administration as Attorney General of New Jersey, and the current general counsel at the SEC, Ms. Megan Barbero, litigated both impeachments against President Trump from former Speaker Pelosi. This seems yet another instance of the Biden-Harris's administration of lawfare against former President Trump. Commissioner Ueda, according to the SEC public records, you voted against the July 2023 settlement agreement between the SEC and Digital World Acquisition Corp., which fined DWAC for $18 million. Can you elaborate on your decision to vote against the settlement agreement?
I was particularly concerned and had problems with the penalty that was being imposed. The way the penalty was structured, the only time the penalty would be imposed is if the SPAC went through with the merger with Trump Media. In other words, the very people who we claim to be protecting, the investors in that entity, would be the ones who would have to foot the bill and pay that civil penalty. And for that reason, I had strong objections to the settlement.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Commissioner Peirce, as a regulatory sandbox advocate, if you listen to these hearings enough, I think that's where we should be moving a lot of our regulatory environment into a sandbox model. How would a digital asset sandbox function within the language of the Fit for the 21st Century Act?
I mean, I think what it would allow is for people to come in on a small scale and try things. And so they'll come in and register that you've heard from the SEC a lot could be brought to life, because people could actually come in, say, these are the conditions that we're going to comply with, and they could go out and try something. They wouldn't have to wait to get through an SEC approval process that never finishes.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Commissioner Crenshaw, in 2021, you published a statement where you emphasized the need for the DeFi industry and the SEC to collaborate to bring DeFi into the regulatory perimeter in a way that balances innovation and with investor protection. Would you characterize the SEC's current approach to DeFi as collaborative thus far?
Well, thank you. I think there's been a lot of rhetoric on both sides. But what I would really like to see is getting down to brass tacks and a practical application. And I have asked for folks to bring in pen to paper where you're finding challenges. They know their industry and their business model better than we ever can. And so what I would really like to see is pen to paper where you're having challenges. And with that, I think staff would be for it, and I certainly know that my office would look at it and look to see how we can move forward. And I think we could. I think there's a lot of flexibility under the existing regime where there are ways to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ueda, I want to go back to you, because I know what you said earlier. You thought that the settlement was frankly unfair to the investors that the SEC is somewhat charged with protecting. Did you find that this entire process to move towards a settlement was outside the norm of the SEC's operations in previous years? And what I mean by that, and let me clarify, what I mean by that is, would the SEC engage in the same type of novel theory if it was dealing with any other enterprise that did not include former President Trump?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, hold on to that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Glenser?
Absolutely. It was following the facts and the law, and there was disclosure violations, and we worked through those with the company, Digital World Acquisition Company, and had a resolution of it, a settlement.
Okay, thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired.